What's up everyone, Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids doing our next video in our Everyday Carry series. And today we're going to be talking about rescue knives. And you'll see as we show you these knives kind of what a rescue knife actually is. But let me give you some thoughts behind why you might want to carry a rescue knife. First off, if you are military, law enforcement, EMT, somebody in the medical field or somebody who's a first responder, then you may want to actually have one of these knives on you. Secondly, is that maybe you're just somebody who's like, I've carried a pocket knife for a while and it's helpful, but I don't use it as much as I thought I would. And so if I'm gonna have a knife, I'm gonna have a knife on me that's really going to be able to help in a crisis situation. So maybe that's another reason why you might want to actually carry a rescue knife. The third thing is you'll see when you actually see these knives that a lot of them they're pretty big. They have generally what I would call an oversized or at least a large to extra large size handle, particularly when it comes to the thickness of the handle. And so maybe you're somebody who's just got big hands and you're like, okay, well, a lot of knives are too small for me to handle. I generally find these knives are a little bit bigger, and so that might be a good fit for you. No pun intended. The last thing I'll say to you is that my man Skinny Medic, who's a YouTuber and creates medical kits, really good guy. Definitely check him out on YouTube, Skinny Medic. He has this tagline, "You never know when you're going to be the first responder," and I think that's a great call because I think maybe like 3 weeks ago, I believe it was on Knife News on their Facebook feed about a guy who randomly went out and he purchased a knife. He purchased, I believe, a Benchmade Triage, and then on the way home actually used the knife to rescue a young person, I think it was a child, from a car. So situations can pop up where you're like, hey, I probably wouldn't need, I don't need a knife, but situations can pop up where you're like, wow, man, I'm really glad I had that on me because it does allow me to help out and assist somebody who's in maybe dire straits or a life and death situation. So there's some thoughts on where you may want to check out rescue knives. Besides that fact, the last thing I'll tell you is that a lot of these knives I think are just cool looking. They just got kind of a cool factor. They're usable as an everyday carry knife to a large extent. But beyond that, there's also just kind of a cool factor. So you can have a knife that works for everyday carry, but it also, you're kind of like, I just like this knife. It looks kind of chill. So let's take a look. We have right in front of me 7 different knives. And I want to say right off the bat that all these knives came to us from knifehog.com. So I want to say thank you to them and check out the links down below. I've got links to all these knives if you want to purchase them over there. And some of the knives are going to have slight different versions available on Knifehog's website. So definitely check them out over there as well. And there is also a discount code that you'll be able to use with Knifehog, and I'll put that down in the description box as well. All right, let's take a look at the knives. First up, we have the Spyderco Assist. Now you can get this knife in a couple different options. You can get it with the black handle and the black blade. You can get it with a satin blade and a black handle. You can also get it with a satin blade and a blaze orange handle. So for this version, which is the most expensive, this is going to run you around $160, and the other two are going to run you around $145. So about a $15 difference between the two different blades. Let me give you some of the specs on this one. Your blade length, 3.69 inches. Your blade thickness, 0.125 inches. As you saw, it was partially serrated. The blade material is VG10. Your open length is 8.38 inches, and the closed length is 4.88 inches, and your weight is 4 ounces. A couple things that are really cool about this knife. First, as I mentioned, the handle it's not huge, but I would call it large. It's definitely going to be, kind of a hefty handle for you to hold on to. You've got this nice jimping here on top of the Spidey hole. So that really locks in when you're holding the knife. I mean, that thing, you get a hold of it and you really feel like you have control of it. You do have serrations on most of the blade, and then you have a very short section here on the end that has that is a plain edge. So that's actually pretty cool. It is a back lock, so you're going to close that up. When you do close it up, if you are holding the knife in your hand and you squeeze the blade in, you're going to see that the little glass breaker is going to pop out. So you're going to get a glass breaker to pop out on the top of the knife, or basically at the base of the handle. And so basically you're going to squeeze the knife and then you can, hit glass to break it and then release. And I'll just show you here on camera so you can see, like in my hand, it pops out and then goes back in, pops out and then goes back in. Another cool feature is that there's actually a whistle in the handle. So down here at the base of the handle, you can hear a very high-pitched sound. That's going to definitely get somebody's attention. The other cool feature is that if you wanted to cut rope or cut some sort of cordage or webbing, whatever it might be, you can do that without actually fully opening the blade up. What you can do is you can open the blade up just a little bit, slide the cordage in, and then because the blade can be pressed down, you basically keep that cordage nice and taut squeeze the blade, and then that's actually going to cut the cordage free. Now, if you do know Spyderco, they make excellent products, and I've EDC'd this knife, and I just like it. It's it feels really, really durable. VG10 is a good steel, and yeah, overall just a quality product from Spyderco. So Spyderco Assist, that's our first rescue knife. Next up, we have the 511 double duty responder knife. Now, I actually saw this knife for the first time at Blade Show, I think it was 2014, and it just caught my attention, you know, as somebody who's thinking about these types of items that we can add to our everyday carry kind of setup. This grabbed my attention. So end-to-end length with this blade open and with the rear serrated blade open, it's 9.7 inches. Now, I don't know why you'd have both the blades open at the same time, but it is 9.7 inches from end to end with both blades open. When you have just the main blade open, it's 8 3/4 inches from end to end. Once again, kind of an oversized handle, so very manageable even if you have gloves on. You do have a plain edge here, and then you have a serrated edge toward the back of the blade. It is AUS-8 steel, so it's not going to be a super high level steel, but it's definitely better than, you know, maybe like an 8CR13 MOB or something like that. It is a liner lock. On the side of the blade, it does say Blade Tech Mike Velicamp design, and if you've seen some other Blade Tech knives, you may kind of recognize this style. The rear blade is a tiny little serrated blade. It's about 1 3/4 inches long, I would say. And that's also a liner lock. That lock is actually on the back of the knife as opposed to kind of on the underside of the knife. So just be aware of that when you're putting the serrated blade away. When you roll that one away, basically on the end of it, you can see we've got this little glass punch here. So you've got a long rescue blade, you have the serrated rescue blade, and then when the serrated one is put away, you actually have a glass punch in this knife as well. I've heard some interesting reviews on this. Some people like it, some people don't like it as much, but it did catch my eye as far as, you know, being bright. That's what it's made to stand out. And 511 generally makes good gear. They call the grips rubber overmolded FRN grips, and I will tell you that it does feel kind of rubberized, but there's kind of a plastic feel to it as well. So it seems like it's going to be pretty durable. Got a nice big pocket clip there, and it sits nice and deep in your pocket. So once again, we're looking here at the 511 double duty responder knife. I always like to throw a couple curveballs in when I'm shooting videos. So this one is next. This is the Buck Spitfire. When you first look at it, you might go, that's not a rescue knife. Well, you're right. It's not, but I did want to add it to the mix because it is kind of a brighter orange. It's not like a super bright blaze orange. But if you're like, you know, I don't want to carry a rescue knife, but I would like something that has a little bit more color so that if I do drop it, it's going to stand out, or if I'm using it in the dark, it's going to stand out. This could be a knife you might want to check out. So just as a heads up, on the Buck website, it's listed as $50, and at Knife Hog, you can get it for $30. So you can see the difference between what they kind of say on most companies' websites. It's going to be notably more than what you're going to get it at for a retailer. So aluminum handle, and then it does have this blade, which is 420 high carbon stainless steel. Your blade length is 3 1/4 inches. Your weight is 3.2 ounces. Again, it is aluminum. It does have a pocket clip, and it says it's made in the USA. This is a pretty handsome little EDC blade. You know, if you are someone who likes kind of the classic Buck knives, this one's a little bit maybe outside the box from some of their other knives, but I do think it still has that kind of Buck feel to it. So cool blade, got a little bit of belly there, and then has a swedge on top of the blade. So maybe you're not ready or committed to carrying a full-fledged rescue knife, but you want something that's maybe a little bit brighter so you can see it at night, or you can see it, you know, when you're in a low light situation. Maybe the Buck Spitfire is one for you to check out. Next up, we have this one, which is the CRKT M1614 ZER. Now, that is a very long name. I do want to note on the website, it says CRKT M16-12ER. So when you're looking for it on the Knife Hog website, it's M16-12ER. This is going to run you $56 on their website. As you can tell just by looking at it, and this is a big, beefy blade. It has that satin finish, Tonto point. Here's some of your specs. Your overall length, 9.25 inches. Your closed length, 5.5 inches. Your weight is 6.2 ounces. The blade length is 3.75 inches. The thickness is 0.138 inches. It is AUS-8 steel, and as I mentioned before, it is a Tonto with a combo edge. Your handle material is glass-filled nylon, and it is a liner lock with that auto lock system. couple cool things about this knife. First off, it has the flipper. If that's how you're going to deploy it, you could certainly use the thumb studs as well, but that flipper is just sticking out there asking to be flipped. The cool thing about it is that if you look at the flipper, it also is your belt cutter as well. And the nice thing about this one is that it's relatively easy to sharpen. All you got to do is get some fine grit sandpaper and get it down into that little divot there and run it away from the basically down and away, and you'll sharpen that thing up if you need to sharpen it. So when you do flip it up, you can see we have a full tanto point. It does have a mix of the plain edge and the serrated edge as well. It does have the auto lock system, so even if you push the liner to the side and try to push it down, it won't go down. So what you need to do is pull down on a little lever here, that's the auto lock system, then push the liner to the side, swing it down, and it will close up. On the base here, you can see there is a glass breaker or a glass punch. It does have a pocket clip that you can see. You could run it on basically all four setups. So tip up, tip down, right or left, however you want to set it up, you can organize it. And one thing about this one is that mine came with an extra pocket clip, and so I actually I just have two pocket clips on it, and even when the knife is deployed and I'm holding it, those things don't really bother me at this point. So I may take it off, but just for kicks I put it on in the first place. This is definitely a large blade, bright orange, so it's definitely going to get some attention. You know, you take this out of your pocket and go right, you're ready in the strap cutting position or belt cutting position immediately. That tanto point, some people want something maybe a little bit duller, you know, a little more rounded, so if you're getting in close to somebody, you're not poking them. But this knife can function in a variety of different roles, so certainly could function in an emergency situation, but you know, for somebody who may be in law enforcement, military. Once again, the official name, the M1614 ZER, and over on the Knife Hog website, CRKT M16-12ER. Next up, we have the Gerber Hinderer folding knife. Now, I will tell you that on the Knife Hog website, they don't have this one with the kind of reddish handle and the satin blade. They only have the one with the black handle and the black blade at this point, at least listed on their website. But this thing is going to run you $53 on their website, and just kind of a cool knife. So Rick Hinderer, obviously, that if you know the name, very well known in the knife community, and he designed this knife. It is 440A stainless steel. It does have what they call an oversized thumb stud. It has a glass punch. It has a strap cutter. Some of the specs from Gerber on this knife: your overall length 8.5 inches, your blade length 3.5 inches, your close length 5.1 inches, and then your weight is 5.6 ounces. You can see that the blade is completely serrated, but it does have that blunt tip up there, so you can get in close to people if you had to, you know, cut somebody out of a car or something like that. It does have a pocket clip. You don't have any options for where you can put that, so it is only going to be tip down carry. There is a hole on the backside you can use as an oxygen tank wrench, and the lockup is actually kind of interesting. So it is a liner lock, but there's a button on the side, so you're going to basically take this little button, you're going to push the button down, that's going to push the liner lock out of the way, and then you can fold the blade away. Really nice knife. I just think this is a cool looking knife. Down on the other end, away from the blade, there is a strap cutter. It does have a couple little nail nicks to take it out, and there's no kind of locking mechanism to lock it in. There's a tiny little kind of ball bearing that's there, so that when you actually bring the blade out, the ball bearing will kind of lock into the back of the blade. It isn't locked though, it just is more friction, and then when you want to put it away, just push the blade forward and it locks down. You do have a hole at the bottom if you want to put a lanyard, and then you've got a glass punch on the hole there as well. You know, the thing that jumped out to me, first of all, is just that it's a rescue knife, but then the fact that you have Rick Hinderer involved in the design, definitely going to be something you want to check out if you know that name. Very well respected again in the knife community, makes some beautiful knives, and he partnered with Gerber on this one. Another cool feature of this knife is that it comes with a sheath, and you may think at first, well, I'm just going to put this in my pocket. The cool thing about the sheath is that it comes with a little driver set. So in addition to carrying the knife, you got a small driver set in front here that you can use, you know, for a variety of different applications. The driver set is pretty cool. So you have a little wrench, and then you have basically a little insert, and then you have a bunch of different drivers that you can use, and they're stored in a little rubberized container. 3, 6, 9 different drivers plus the wrench and the little attachment point for the wrench. So another thing to keep in mind if you're looking for a knife, maybe you want something that has something beyond just the rescue capacities, this could be something to check out. Next up, we have the Boker CFR. That's Combat First Responder Rescue Knife. Now, I was looking over on the Knife Hog website and actually can't find this knife over there. If you want to head over to Amazon, you can pick it up for around $80 over there. Cool knife, definitely a very unique design. I mean, as you look at that, it kind of reminds you probably of like a gut hook for a hunting knife. But as you can imagine, that's actually the strap cutter. So if you have to basically turn the knife around to cut some sort of cordage or strap, that's how you would do it. Let me give you some of the specs on this. It is 440C black coated stainless steel. It does have a removable glass breaker tip that's down on the butt end of the handle. So you can see we've got a glass breaker built right in there. It does have a pocket clip that's really, it's reversible to go right or left, but it's going to be tip up carry either way. FRN handle scales. It has a thumb disc for opening and the back lock mechanism. This one, as soon as I picked it up, I was like, that is exactly what I would think about when I think of like a rescue knife, as far as the texture on the handle. Just really grippy. It's plastic, so if you're in a situation where there's any kind of fluids, blood, water, whatever, it's just not going to get into the or onto the handle and get soaked into the handle at all. Some people are going to like that little hook for cutting. Some people are not. You can see that the blade is a plain edge and serrated edge, so you have that combination for the different type of cuts. And sometimes you get a combo edge that doesn't give you enough of the plain edge. This one I think definitely does, so you have a good amount of real estate for either one of those edges. Your blade length is 3 7/8 of an inch. Your handle length is 5 1/8 of an inch. So your overall length is 9 inches and your weight is 6.2 ounces. Last one up is this, the Benchmade Triage. This has been an EDC knife for me for a long time. I got my first Triage from Knife Hog to review, and I've just been really happy with it. You can get this with a black blade. You can get it with a satin blade. You can get it with a black handle. You can get it with a blaze orange handle. Benchmade has also come out with a newer version, which is a full auto Triage, a bit beefier, a bit thicker, but if you need something that has a full auto option, you can check out my review, which I'll put down below, and you can see kind of what they did to amp up the Triage. Really cool knife. You do have that sheep's foot style blade there on the front, so that it's not a super pointed blade. Nice long cutting edge. You do have a glass breaker on the at the bottom of the handle. You have a pocket clip, which is reversible. It's going to be tip up carry, either right-handed or left-handed. You also have the built-in strap cutter. There is, similar to some of the other knives, there is no actual lock-in for the strap cutter for this one, but it does have a friction system, and the ergonomics of it are excellent, excellent, excellent. Just the way I held it the first time when I used it, it just makes sense the way they actually built it. As far as the lockup for the blade, it is an Axis blade, which is extremely strong. Benchmade's really well known for their Axis locks. Some of the details on the Triage: it is a manual opening knife. Your blade steel is N680, which is very corrosion resistant, a really nice steel. Its Rockwell hardness is between 57 and 59. Your handle thickness is 0.45 inches. As far as your blade, it's 3.5 inches. Your blade thickness, 0.13 inches. Your open length, 8.2, your closed length 4.7, and your weight 5.1 ounces. This has been a favorite knife of mine for the past year, and if you're looking to invest in a rescue blade and you're a fan of Benchmade, this one I really don't think will disappoint you. I've been very, very happy with this knife. Super impressive. I just like Benchmade stuff overall. They just make really great quality products, so encourage you to check out the Benchmade Triage. All right, so there you go, guys. A bunch of different rescue blades you might want to check out. Head over to knifehog.com. You can use the discount code down below in the description box, and you'll get a discount when you purchase your knife over there. Thanks for checking out this video, and I encourage you to check out the other videos that we've already done in the Everyday Carry series, as well as the ones we will be doing in the future. Please like, share, and subscribe, and check us out on all the social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. Take care.